Well, hello and welcome everyone to today's Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A. I am very pleased today to be joined by Dion McCormick, who we haven't heard from in almost a month at this point, and I know quite a few of you have missed our weekly webinars with him. But he is back, and today he's going to be talking about the new Control Bar Builder. And this is something that Selwyn Ravens, our Chief of Technology here, has covered in a prior session, but he's actually going to divide this up into smaller chunks so that we can all get a better handle of it. The second part of it, of course, will be your questions, and you can go ahead and type those into the GoToWebinar control panel right now. And the last thing I need to let you know is that this session will be recorded, and a copy of it will be available at videos.alphasoftware.com. So go ahead and submit those questions. So, Dion, let me take you off mute. Dion, are you there?
Yes, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Let me go ahead and share your screen. I'll make you the presenter.
Awesome.
And I can see your screen, so we're ready to go.
Excellent, excellent. And welcome, everybody. Missed everybody. It's been a little while here, and as always, we are very excited to have you take the time out of your busy schedule to spend with us. Help us help you by taking the time to go into your GoToWebinar control panel, go to the questions area, and enter any burning questions that you might have, and we'll try to cover those. I'm going to do a quick 10-minute overview demo of the new control bar, and then we'll be opening it up for questions. And also, along with that, as always, please send your questions ahead of time to guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at alphasoftware.com. That allows us to kind of get and prepare content for you, and we always love to see your questions, so get those in. And again, right now, take the time, if you have questions, to go ahead and use the GoToWebinar control panel to put those up. And Dave will be monitoring that and lining them up, and we'll try to answer as many as possible in our meeting today. So thanks for joining us. I want to do one other thing. We're actually working on our schedule for next year. And I think you've heard the exciting news is that go ahead, I want to keep this one up here. We now have a location and date for the Alpha DevCon 2017. So it is available. It's on the website, right, Dave? I'm pulling that up here.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it sure is.
So if you want to get information, start blocking out that location. Let us know. I'm trying to think where it is on here. Well, I'll leave this up for a moment if Dave, you can let me know which.
I'll find the link for you. Yeah.
I think it's on the blog. I think it might have been announced on the blog. Let me see there. But we got that coming up next year, and we're actually starting to do all of our planning for both webinars, weekly Q&A, training events, etc. for next year. So we'd like to ask you beyond that a really powerful question, which is, what do you want to see next year? We're thinking along the lines is we're going to have our weekly Q&As, webinars and Q&As. But beyond that, we want to do some more interesting things. So we want to do some more deep dives on specific technology, 2-3 hour sessions once a quarter that focuses on something important to our audience. Because we really enjoy the weekly webinar and Q&A. We love the interaction, but we realize that's a very short period of time. Really we only have about 20-30 minutes of canned content, and then the rest is questions, so it can be a little ad hoc. So what we'd love to do is, instead of us just making up what we're going to talk about, which is what we usually do, but what we would like to do is hear from you. What are your ideas? What would you like to go deeper into? Instead of just kind of a surface 10, 15, 20-minute demo, what would you like to spend 2 hours going through and drilling into it? So with that in mind, if you could help us out by by sending an email to guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at Alpha Software, and send us your ideas. That way you can guide us to deliver the kind of content that you're going to find powerful and useful for yourself. And we're really excited to hear what you want to find out on. There's so many new technologies. We're going to start touching on the control bar here, but all the PhoneGap capabilities, the Shell apps, the Alpha Launch. Alpha has a whole bunch of new stuff coming out next year, which we'll be working to deliver. But what we really want to make sure is that we're focusing on things that are going to bring immediate and incredible value to you as an Alpha developer. So take the time, send us an email, guides at alphasoftware.com. We're going to compile all that, and then as we schedule out and plan for next year, we're going to be doing setting those things in mind. And in fact, we're also looking for any training ideas that you're looking for, of things that maybe we could package more as a training event versus just a 2-hour deep dive. Anything along those lines. Your feedback is what we're looking for when it all comes down to it. And that will allow us to provide a really cool and powerful set of events for you next year to continually feed you the best information about Alpha and help you achieve your end goals. We're very, very excited about that. So again, guides at alphasoftware.com. Give us your feedback. We really want to know. So with that said, also, Dave, I'm sorry, where is it on there? I know it was in an email, and I'm sorry.
It is. In fact, I just pasted that into the chat window of the...
good. So if you go to your chat window, and there's a beautiful... it's Alpha DevCon 2017. I should have just guessed.
alphasoftware.com/DevCon 2017.
alphasoftware.com/DevCon 2017. Dun dun, I guess Gary, it's 2017. There you go. So we're looking October, late October in Newport, Rhode Island. There's some more information. You could actually register right now. And we're planning out training events that are going to happen. We don't have the agenda set yet. We just wanted to lock down the dates, get you set up on there. You can look at our 2006 agenda. It'll probably give you a little idea there. And we'll be updating this page continually with agenda information, the training content we're going to deliver at this year's next year's DevCon. And you can influence that. You know, your input right now can have a big impact on what we're going to deliver. So we look forward to hearing from you. So again, alphasoftware.com, DevCon 2017. Okay, so today what I want to spend some time is on a fabulous, and I want to reiterate that word, fabulous new feature that was included in the 4.3 release, which is official and out, that is the control bar concept. And the control bar is extremely powerful because of two reasons. First and foremost, it dramatically simplifies what was a kind of a tedious task, which was creating headers and footers for your application. You know, there was, when I first started with the UX component with the panel headers and footers, I spent a fair amount of time kind of getting my way of putting those together, because that's an important content area. It really allows the user to be very efficient and interact with your application, and that's valuable territory. And it was kind of a, to be honest, pain in the tail. You had to kind of lay it out and use tab stops and play with this and go through a lot of hoops to be able to get nice looking headers and footers to accurate. And then what I also found is you had to spend a fair amount of time kind of tweaking it throughout the whole thing. So your app became a little more complex over time and a little bit more maintenance and other pieces there. And like any first generation technology, it worked great and it was well tested, well thought out, but it just wasn't as good as it should be. And that's where Dan and Selwyn and the development team took a step back and said, what are we doing with those content areas? What do people want to do with those areas? You know, for now they were just giving you an area, you put your controls in there, but they took it to the next level. And that's really what we're going to be walking through, is a little bit of the philosophy of how they took this very valuable piece of real estate and said, how can we put something on that piece of real estate that dramatically reduces the effort to create a dramatically better experience for the user, and also make it easier for the developer to do some fairly complex things in those areas without having to divert to a lot of JavaScript coding or other pieces like that. So we're going to do a few part series where we're going to walk through just the basics of what the control bar is, what are the different elements to it, and then we're going to kind of dive in and do some demonstrations of kind of common things you'd like to do. Like for instance, when you're moving from one toolbar to like one panel card to another, swapping out the toolbar so it looks a little differently, or the control bar, making drop-down menus on the control bars, things along those lines. So today is more of an orientation of what are the elements of a control bar, what's kind of built in right out of the gate. And then as we move along, we're going to dive into some of these little bit more interesting concepts of then how you can tweak the toolbar. What I'm going to say right up front is that I got to tell you, the control bar has been one of the most fun controls that I've worked with Alpha in a long time. I mean, it is very well thought out. It is very quick and easy to make adjustments, change, and once you understand the philosophies, you can create very cool toolbars and control bar environments for people. And it's fun. You get a lot of interactivity. You can play with it. It's easy to develop, check, and run, and it's very stable and very smooth in terms of it works the way you think it should work. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what you can do with the control bar. Well, a control bar is, I think of it as almost like a little UX within a UX. It's an environment in and of itself. And because of that, you can create very sophisticated behaviors, but manage them in a very simplistic way. And so, for instance, some of the things you'll do with the toolbar is you'll have your traditional header with a set of buttons that are available. You'll also have things like drop-down menus and buttons, and you can interact and combine them. You're also going to have footers where you can have button bars. And the neat thing about it is that they're not just static buttons, they're actually dynamic. They'll actually highlight and change. And as you can see, we're using more and more the SVG icons, and that's a key capability, is with SVG icons and SVG technology, which we've covered before, you can actually create some very compelling looking interfaces using built-in off-the-shelf icons that are in alpha, but also third-party icons, bring them right in and use them. And then your app's going to look much slicker. And since it's SVG, you can modify the colors, you can tweak whatever you want, you can change the sizing, and they always look perfect. They're really, really fun. And that's a key. 4.3 really embraced SVG icons. We have a core set that's built into the tool, plus the ease of bringing in other ones from there. Another area of control bars we're going to cover down the road is the fact that you have also what's called a disclosure pane, which is sort of like a drop-down menu, but it's like a drop-down page area. And that allows you to do some very sophisticated interactions with the user, thus preserving. So instead of having to take a person from one panel card to another to ask them a question and get a response, you can now use the control bar to have this really neat, slick, like slide down question/response area, and then the person will be able to do it. And we'll dive into that a little bit more because it's very powerful and very flexible from that standpoint. But again, this is very valuable real estate. What's cool about the control bar is it makes it easy to use that real estate, but also it allows you to make very complex interactions with that area of real estate with a very simplistic kind of concept in there. So let's go ahead and go through and start looking at the control bar. So I'm going to go back into my development environment. I'm going to take a 1 moment check to make sure I'm coming through okay. Yep. And everything's good.
All is great.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go ahead, and as usual, I like to start with a template because starting with a blank screen is always a little bit challenging. So I'm in my alpha development environment. For people who are new, thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you, and we hope we'll see you often at these events. But I'm in the alpha development system. I'm at the web projects control panel area, and this is where we have all the different components that make up the web aspect or mobile aspect of our project. So I'm going to click New here because I'm on Web Components. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to select my first item here, Web Component. I'm going to click Next, and I'm going to click UX. That's the heart of our mobile and web kind of applications, is the UX component, and I'm going to click Next. Now we ship with a large number of pre-made templates that are in here, but the one I'd like to focus on, the one I'm using more and more as my go-to, used to be this one, Panel Navigator with tab buttons, but now my go-to for any kind of initial prototype, demonstration, etc., is the tab buttons using control bars, because they've basically taken one of our most popular templates and added the control bars into it. So I'm going to click OK. And this is going to go ahead and auto-generate a templated control bar. So I'll say CB1 underscore UX. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and look at a working preview. So I'll go back and explain a little bit of the different pieces here. So first, you'll see that here is my example. You'll see I have an area at the top of the screen, which is a control bar, that has a little piece of text and a drop-down menu. And when I click on that, you see this very slick slide-out menu appear. And in here, we have a set of menu items. So I'll click on one of those, and you'll see it just does an alert. I'll click on here, click on menu 2, and you see an alert. Nothing really exciting there. Now, down below, you'll see we have another area because we actually have 2 control bars built into this. the header control bar in the header area, and the footer area, which will have another control bar, which you'll notice has a series of buttons. And what's cool about these buttons, you'll notice that as I move over them, I'm highlighting them, and they're highlightable. So if I select this one right here, you'll notice two things. The panel card changed, so it produced an action, but check this out. It actually is showing that this is the selected panel card. I select here, we now have it here. So the control bar immediately shows you we have lots of different things. We have static text, we have buttons that create actions, we have menus that pops out, we have static buttons here, or not static, but almost living buttons that allow you to say they understand the state they're in and their ability to do those pieces there. So if I go back into my design environment, you'll see that we have our traditional panel navigator, which is our panel cop, and then we have a set of panel cards. Each of these panel cards has content within them. So the idea is when you're building your apps, and this is for more of the new folks, you'll have a series of panel cards, and each panel card will have a different set of content, maybe a list control or detail view or something like a edit form view to capture things. So you'll notice up top though that I have in my panel navigator, you'll notice that I have a panel header container and I have a panel header footer. Now you'll also notice within my header I have a control bar, and in the footer I have a control bar. So I actually have two different control bars that are on my system, and those are contained within the container there. But you'll notice first and foremost there was a lot of stuff going on in that control bar, but you'll see in my UX environment there's only one control. And that's, again, back to my original point. One of the most important aspects of the control bar is simplifying the management and maintenance. So now instead of having a dozen things inside this container, I now have a control bar, and when I open it up, I have a dedicated environment to manage the content within there. And we'll walk through this next. But the beauty of that is now I don't clutter up, and so I can focus on the content of my app and not focus on having 100 or 50 controls on here to be able to produce the kind of effects you saw before. Now, for people who are new, the panel navigator basically says one of these cards is shown at one time, and it controls moving things around and showing what it is. And by setting my panel header as a part of the panel navigator, this panel header is going to show up even if this panel card is shown, this panel card shown, this panel card shown, or this is shown. So if I go back to my working preview, you'll notice that even though I am moving from panel card to panel card by clicking the buttons down here, you'll see that this control bar is in the panel header for the navigator and is always shown. Now you may have a situation, so that's one of the really cool things about a control bar is that now we can have that at these fixed locations. And the other thing, which we'll go in a future one, is the fact that before, because of the way panel headers worked, I had to go in here and create a panel header, and then inside the panel header for this one card, I had to go in here and add the controls for what I wanted at the top of that card. And so I would end up doing that for each panel card, and thus adding more and more complexity to my design. As we'll go into in a different one, control bars can have different layouts, and layouts will allow you to display a different sort of set of content depending on where. So I can literally create a different set of content on each one of these panel cards for the control bar, but you'll notice I don't have to create special headers for each panel card. It's all done through the control bar. And again, we'll be covering that probably in the next session is probably the best place to do that. Okay, so real quick recap. The control bar is in the panel header. We have a second one in the panel footer. You'll notice there's one control bar control, but within the control bar is a rich set of menus and other actions from there. And you'll notice that since we put it in the panel navigator, this control bar will show on top of all the panel cards that are shown within that. So now what I'd like to do, and if you have questions on this stuff, please take the time to go to your GoToWebinar control panel, not the GoToWebinar control bar, although I think they should put in a control bar, but we'll talk about that later. But go there, go into the questions area and submit your questions, and then Dave will be watching those so we can make sure to capture that and get those questions before we end the session today. So now I'm going to go into the control bar. Now, this is my UX editor. As you can see, we have all the properties, the data binding server, a whole bunch of controls there. So you can think about it, this is a editor where I can add and remove controls to produce a certain look and feel. Well, the concept of the control bar is that it's very similar, although it's somewhat a little bit more limited, is that when I open it up, I'm basically opening up an editor. And this editor consists of a whole bunch of pre-made items and contents and items there that make up what a control bar is. And so therefore, when I'm editing the control bar, I do all my work in here, thus I don't have to clutter up my core content. So think of it this way. You're going to have your core content, your list displaying information, your edit forms, your form views, etc. in here. And then your navigation elements, you can now manage them all in one place, thus simplifying the look and feel, or actually the management, but also opening up a whole new set of really powerful capabilities. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through the control bar. So first, there's a home page. This is the most important page on the control bar builder. And the reason why is these two links right here. These links right here, if you click here, will open up your web browser and take you right to our user guide. And it's in our fabulous documentation site that is managed by Sarah, who has done a phenomenal job and keeps going there. And so in here is all the detailed documentation of what is a control bar, how do you use it, etc. And so you don't have to hunt around for that website, although you can always go to our handy dandy and type up here in the search, and I highly recommend do that, control bar, and you'll see that it will come up with there, and it'll take you kind of the similar spot. But what I suggest is that on the home page here, you have some little description here, but most importantly here, and there's two documents. There's the user guide, and the user guide is kind of a very high level conceptual document. This talks a bit about the structure of what a control bar is, how to access it, what it does, etc. Some of the concepts behind it, which we're going to be covering here. Now, the second one is also very important as you get more experience with the control bar, and that's for the control bar API documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to open that up also. And again, we're on our handy dandy here. But you'll see in here that we have a whole set of very detailed things about properties and also methods that are available within a control bar. So we have properties, how you can set sort of parameters on the control bar to do certain things. And then we also have methods, and these are methods that allow you to control the control bar, meaning you can, in your code, you can send messages to the control bar to say, hey, show me a different layout. Oh, update this data here. Oh, do this here. So what's neat about it is that the control bar is sort of like a country in and of itself, but also from outside of the control bar, you can add, and if I go over here, in here, buttons and other things you want that will allow you to control the control bar. So just up front, and we'll show you in more detail, is let's say I have a button that goes from panel card 1 to panel card 2. I can tell the control bar, hey, you know what? I've gone to panel card number 2, so I would like you to show a different layout so that the user has a little different experience. And we do that through the API, and they're very simple calls, and once you know them, they're the same ones over and over again. So first and foremost, the home page here, or the home tab. Make sure to spend a little time, especially on the user guide. That will supplement our discussions here, and also the control bar API documentation. You'll also notice here, and let me do a process check. Dave, we coming through okay, or did I lose you?
Nope, we're still coming through.
I'm sorry, everybody. I've had some network issues the last week, and so I've been on webinars talking for like 2 minutes, and then I get a text message saying you don't exist anymore. So so make sure to text me on my phone if it goes off there. And that's 1-800-controlbar.com. So a couple other things here is that we have sample control bars. You can click here, and you'll notice that we have some pre-made ones. And these are great. Just, you know, as you want to play with it, you can create these load sample and then go through and look at how they were built. You can also export and import control bars. Very powerful if you need to move a control bar that you like to another project. And then we also have some messaging functions. We'll talk about that a little bit more from there. So homepage. Now, I'm going to come back to data, but I'd like to first start with items. So what items are the, sort of think of them as the content elements that will be inside of a control bar. So your text, your buttons, your other things like that, including your menu, etc. So if I go ahead and look at my layout here, we can add, so the items are the, let's call them subcomponents of a control bar. And then what we do with the subcomponents is we have a control bar layout, and you can have one or more of these layouts, and in here you can add your items or subcomponents into it. So not to confuse things, items are, think of them as subcomponents, entities that are like buttons or menus or static text. And then you have layouts which tell it how to lay out those different elements into a control bar. Now, along with items, which is very, very important, we also have actions. So if you'll notice in here, I'm going to go ahead and click on, let me go ahead and show you so you can see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and do my working preview. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to click on this drop-down menu here, and I'm going to select this menu item number 4. And when I do that, you'll notice that it pops up an alert. So a simple JavaScript action saying alert. And again, that JavaScript action can be very powerful. You could be doing mapping with it. You could be doing list control actions. It's up to you. So when I clicked menu 4, so menu 4, this is a control bar item or subcomponent. And then when I clicked on it, it triggered the action that actually performed something when the user interacted with that item. And so the idea behind it is that if I go back, oops, cancel that. If I go back into my control bar and I go into my, here, if I look at menu number 4, that is the control bar item, essentially subcomponent. If I go to my control layout, you'll notice that it's sitting right here. Actually, it's inside here. I'll show you the menu in a moment. But what's important is that on this item, we have a click event. And you'll notice we also have a down, hold, up, down, swipe, so we have a whole bunch of stuff here. So we click here, and it, instead of bringing up an action JavaScript builder or a JavaScript editor, we are associating this with actions. So one key concept with control bars is we have separated the entity from the actions, meaning that the entity, when you want to associate some behavior to it, you point to an action. And that's very powerful because you could have 3 or 4 different ways you want to allow the user to perform a specific action. Now you don't have to create those 3 or 4 different items and associate the same same code to each one. It allows you to separate the code from the action itself. So if I wanted to, I could say, you know what, I'm going to go to menu 3 and I'm going to trigger the same action here. Thus, by just doing that, now when this object or item is triggered, it's going to perform the same action. And I didn't have to go in and copy this code and copy it to a different item and all the maintenance associated. So it's very powerful for you to remember that items are entity elements, subcomponents that are going to live inside your control bar. Actions are behaviors that you want to occur when someone hits or interacts with a item in your control bar. And the actions are managed separately because we can allow you to reuse that action on multiple elements. So you may want to have different ways to present what the user can do and do that from there. So you'll see when you click on a click, the first time I did it, I was saying, hey, where's my JavaScript builder? I'm going to add a click event. And then I realized, well, no, what you're doing is you create actions and then you associate those with items. Okay, so that's a key concept there. Now, let's look at a couple of these real quick. I'm going to click here and click Add Control Bar Item. You can see these are my existing ones here. Now, the different control bar items we have are HTML, which is, think of it as text that's in your control bar. We have buttons, which is the bulk of what you'll probably do, which is either an icon or text, but it's a button concept, something, a picture or a piece of text that you can click and create activity. You have button toggle, which is very nice because button toggle will have two states. So it's a button, if you click on it, you can change the state so it has two different appearances. And remember when I was showing you the footer, those buttons down there had a highlighted and non-highlighted state. That's a concept of a button toggle. Now, even more powerful is a button list. And actually, the thing down below is really a button list, and we'll show you that in a few moments. But a button list is actually a series of buttons that are related to each other. And this is kind of powerful because it allows you to kind of create nice groups of buttons without having to have a ton of items in your piece there. The next one is a very special type of button called the disclosure button. And what a disclosure button is that it triggers and is associated with triggering like a slide down panel to show the person to notify them something or click on it. And we'll show that probably in the next one from there. And then last but not, we have edit, which think of it as your standard text box. So like if you're creating a filter interface where you want to have an area where the person can type some data into the control bar, we would set the edit. So as you can see, right out of the gate, we have some very, very broad capabilities to cover almost 95% of what you want to do in that control bar with these different types of buttons that go from there. So when you're adding control bar items, you click here, you select the type, you give it a name. We'll talk a little bit more about naming. And then that adds it into our list here. Now, we also have the ability to delete a control bar item and also to modify it by using the panel over here, change names and stuff like that. And one other thing I wanted to show you is like on this menu, this is a button, so it works much like a button that you would use on the UX, where you can click the different type of layout. So you can have a text one, an image only. You could have image followed by text, image left and right of text, etc. So you have a lot of flexibility, and the ones you're most likely going to use is either text only or image followed by text or image only. Those are the three major ones I go there. So I want to break it here because I want to leave time for Q&A. We're going to come back next time and talk about layouts and how I structure layouts that are associated with it. But a quick recap is that first and foremost, the control bar builder, homepage, lots of documentation. We also have sample ones you can load up, and more of these will come, which have some kind of common use case control bar items, so you can kind of start with those without having to create something from the ground up. We have these things called items, which are the subcomponents that are going to go into a control bar. And then you have these things called actions, which are really just pieces of JavaScript that perform a specific behavior, and they can either be simple or very complex. And I didn't show you before, but we can actually create action JavaScript with our action JavaScript builder. And we're not forced to do JavaScript. We can actually go in here and use our full action JavaScript builder to create very sophisticated actions. Once you've done that, you put in here the call to call that action. And I'll probably go through a quick sample of it next time to show you how to do this. So we don't leave behind the simplicity of saying, hey, when someone clicks a button, I want them to draw a map and put a pointer on there. Well, instead of having to learn a whole bunch of JavaScript, we can use action JavaScript to do so. But back to what our action is this action is a set of JavaScript which will be triggered, when triggered will perform this. And we actually provide you a lot of information in that, so if you want to do some more sophisticated manipulation, you can do that. But usually it's pretty simple things, like it's a panel navigate, an alert, a save record, or one of the similar one pieces there. And then when we have items, when you have an item, you have the different actions that occur. And when you click on that, it actually shows you not the text editor or the action JavaScript. It actually shows you what actions you've built. And therefore, we're separating items from actions. Now, next time I come back, we're going to go into control bar layout. We're going to explore the ability to lay out where you want your controls on here. And more importantly, we're going to talk about the fact that you can have multiple layouts. So therefore, a control bar is not fixed. I could literally have a different layout for each one of these panel cards and have a different set of behaviors completely. So therefore, we have a very powerful interface for the person no matter where they are in the panel card area. So we'll start on that. We'll talk a little bit. I'll do a demo of doing some action JavaScript with a action just to show you something really fun, like maybe drawing a map in a control bar or into a piece there. And then after that, we'll dive into some things like the data, which is very powerful, which allows you to make your control bar have dynamic text, meaning that one of the most popular use cases is this. I'm on my first panel card. I'll go ahead and exit out of this. I'm on my first panel card and I have a list of items. I click a list item and I take them to a detail view that's on panel card number 2. Well, when I'm in that detail on panel number 2, in the header, I want to put like the name of the item I was selected. So contextually, the person understands, oh, I'm editing, item B or item C or whatever it happens to be there. And we use that, technology through the concept of data, where we can have data items that we can set on the fly, and then those data items can represent themselves on the control bar. So we can say, oh, this list was selected. Then on the control bar, I want to put the name of the item in that list and show it up top. And that was a very kind of complicated kind of method to go through before. With the new control bar, it's super easy and very easy to manage, and you're really going to enjoy it. It's really, really fun from that standpoint there. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put a halt, and I'm going to go back to Dave, and he's going to look at the probably 100 questions we have right now. Is that about right? And we'll start working through that from there.
Yeah, it's something like that, plus or minus a bit. But, yeah, something like that. Yeah, go ahead and type in more questions, by the way, anyone who's got them. But we definitely have quite a few. So we're going to start.
You've got questions, we've got answers.
I'm going to start ones that are kind of control bar related first. Actually, let's start with the easy one, and that is, all right, control bar, it looks cool, but is it just for mobile applications, or is it for web applications too?
It is for both. It is a standard component that can be used for both mobile and others. And in fact, we'll be covering that in one of our, not next time, but next time after that, how you can use the control bar to mimic some very powerful standard desktop web user interfaces.
Terrific. So next question is, well, actually, it's something I'd like to point out, is that with the new control bar, there are some new buttons and things like that that have CSS classes that are assigned to them. So this is kind of important in that the older style sheets don't know anything about the control bar builder.
Yeah.
But the brand new alpha style sheet does know about the control bar builder. And so that's probably the one you want to use for now. Yeah. You can always make a clone of it, but that's the one you want to use if you want to make it look right when you're using the control bar builder.
Yeah, and the new control bar really relies on that, and also a lot of SVG content, so the SVG icons. And the beauty of the alpha also is that because it's a new style, it's a Generation 2 style, or actually Generation 3 style, it allows you to be edited using our web style builder using like less, is it Sass? It's Sass,
Sass.
right?
Yep.
Sass. So you can go in and change the color scheme and everything else very readily without having to type a whole bunch of CSS and do a lot of things there. So definitely alpha is kind of where you want to go. It's far more easy to modify than the previous generation, and I actually saw some cool demos where people are taking even our tabbed control, our tabbed UI control, and applying alpha to it and making it look much more modern than it did before. It's really exciting. But good point, yeah. And that's again why when I started to create this just for giggles, or for this training, I used the mobile app framework tab buttons using control bars, and that by default has the alpha style being used. So
cool. So the question that we have related to the style is, are there any gotchas? Let's say you've got a UX component and you're already using the iOS style and you want to switch over to alpha. Any problem in doing that?
It will work. You may have some work to kind of relay out things a little bit, because iOS 7 is actually, they're pretty similar. I think if anything, alpha is a derivative of that, meaning that it was alpha was purposely initially targeted for mobile. So you should have a fairly smooth transition there, but you probably will have to do a few tweaks here and there to get it to look exactly how you want it to do. If you were going from one of our older ones, which not a lot of people really use anymore, they're using iOS 7 or Android, then there's a much bigger leap just because it's some time between them. But if you're using iOS 7, you're going to be in pretty good shape, because you'll notice kind of the structure, larger text areas, larger buttons, alpha, a little bit smaller, and that's actually not showing alpha properly there. I'll have to see if there's something up here. But it's going to look pretty close to iOS 7, and you should be, and remember, you can click Edit Style here, create a copy of it, and then tweak it to your heart's desire to kind of change the color scheme, create a more accurate branding environment.
Terrific. Another, I'm just going to go through the control bar ones first, and then we'll go to the other ones. Would it be possible to build a control bar that shows like a breadcrumb trail, like when you're drilling down into something?
Excellent point, and that's what we're going to cover next time.
Oh,
We're going to cover two things next time, which is great. One is the layout. That'll go fairly quickly in multiple layouts, but again, we're going to talk about this data item. And the data item, like if you'll notice my current control bar here, if I go to the layout, you'll notice I have this thing called My App right here. And if I go back to my, and you'll see this is where it's at, saying HTML1. If I go back to my items, I have HTML1, that's where it's here. So I'm going to go, Dave's app. So I'm changing the text for HTML1. When I go back to my control bar layout, you'll notice that I'm just pointing to HTML1. Well, that's now Dave's app right here. Well, with data elements, what we can do is this area right here can become dynamic. So I can, on the fly, say, like whoever the user is logging in, make it their app, give them their name. And that's using the data concept. And we'll cover that next time. But therefore, you could create a breadcrumb trail kind of concept, because you could just keep appending or de-appending things from this text right here. So you could see that, like I selected this thing in the list, and then from the sublist I selected this, and that would be done through the data element, which we'll do next time. But absolutely, that is very easy to do, and we'll show you an example of how to do that.
Excellent. Okay, so next question is not control bar related. It has to do with uploading files. And the question is, how do I do a multiple file upload?
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so let's see, where do I want to do that? I'll just create a new UX here just for now. Make it simple. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click UX. And, okay, so in my controls here, Alpha has already built-in file upload capability. And so what I've done here is I have a plain UX here. I'm going to go ahead and add a button to it. And just to start out with, I'm going to go ahead and go to the click event. I click here. I can either double click on buttons, by the way. If I just double click, it opens up my Action JavaScript Builder. Or I can click here and go like this, and it does the same thing. But this is a nice shortcut. So I'm going to add a new action, and we have file, upload. And you'll see we actually have three different versions of it. We have file upload user defined, and file upload Amazon S3 or Alpha. So this is one I'm going to go ahead and use here. But this one's very powerful, and we won't go into it here, but this one allows you to, before the file is actually fully processed, you can call an XBasic function, so you can, like, for instance, rename the files or analyze them or do stuff you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and add this here. So again, just so I don't go too quick, I'm going to click Add New Action. I'm going to click File, and then I'm going to have File Upload Amazon S3 Storage or Alpha Anywhere Server. Now the first thing it's asking me is, where am I sending these files? This is very cool. Alpha has built into it Amazon S3 support. So you can say Alpha Anywhere, and what it's going to be doing is we're going to define a folder up on the server, which will then locate and tell it what folder do we want to place it on the server. Alternatively, we can use S3, and with S3 we can use what's called a storage connection string to actually connect to an Amazon S3 instance. And this is very powerful, and I kind of want to spend just 2 minutes on this, is that the Alpha, they both work essentially the same as far as the user is concerned. They select files, it gets uploaded. But the Alpha Anywhere one, we're using the Alpha Anywhere server to actually transact that file upload process. So the file upload on the client is calling the Alpha server, sending the content up, Alpha server is taking it and creating the files, etc. And then you can call an XBasic function that then allows you to process those files, much like the file upload. If you go to Amazon S3, when the file upload gets triggered, the client calls Amazon S3, negotiates with Amazon S3, and uses Amazon S3's resources to upload. And those are going to be very fast, very reliable, and therefore your Alpha Anywhere server is not going to get hit. And therefore your performance of your Anywhere server is going to be much better, because Amazon S3 is doing all the heavy lifting. And again, S3, their uptime is amazing, and they also have incredible fabric of networks so that the uploads go very quickly. So you can pick one of those two things. So I'm just going to pick File Alpha Anywhere there. And then we have a method for selecting files here. We could either do the user selects a file, or we could have some base64 data that's already been selected to do that. Here you go. And I'm sorry it's been so long-winded. You're like, my God, could you just click that button in the story, you know, and put us all out of our misery here. But if you click here, then this allows you to upload multiple files. And again, that works both for Alpha Anywhere and S3. And we can then tell how many. So, you know, we can set certain limits so someone doesn't try and send like a gig of file space up to yours are there. And we can display the progress if we want to. We can also define the allowed file types, so we can say we only want like JPEGs, PNGs, etc. And then there's a whole set of JavaScript that we can trigger like on an error or after anything happened. We have those controls from there. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I'll call this hello. Actually, let's go here and we'll call it process files. And then we'll show the function prototype, copy that, and OK. So that's how I do it there. When I click OK, save that. Let's go ahead and do a live preview because it won't work, I don't think, in working preview because it depends on the browser. Let's see if we have this here. And actually, I should show the placeholder. Well, it's just going to be there. Give me a moment. My system wakes up because of that. Okay, click the button. Allows me to click one or more files, click open, boom, it starts processing them here. Now, I don't have it enabled here, but if I'm going to go ahead and add a placeholder here. And let's see, I don't think I have everything set up, but I'm going to go into containers, and I'm going to go container, and I'm going to, oh, I'm not container, I'm sorry, I want a placeholder. It's under other controls. Placeholders are powerful, it's kind of just a spot, a div there. And so when I go into this button again, I'm going to go ahead and say display progress during file upload, and I'm going to just accept the defaults, but I'm going to tell it to display it in that placeholder. So that's basically where on the screen I want it to happen there. And let's see what happens here. Let's give it a try here. I haven't set up it's not going to do anything with the files, but I should be able to show the behavior of the actual file upload happening. Okay, so I'm going to click button. I'll just, let's go ahead and let's say open. And you'll notice, it went so fast. Did you see that, everybody? If we can, we need like slow motion replay on this webinar so we can go to the tape. You'll notice when I do this, and let me select a few more of these. I'm going to click open. Now watch right here when I do this.
Yep.
It gives the name of each file, and it shows a progress bar for each one. Now I'm working locally, so it literally just copied it from one place to another on my SSD drive. That's not fair. But if you are on the internet, you're going to have upload speeds, you know, getting better, but you're going to still have that. So the person will see a visual indicator of multiple files being uploaded, the progress for each one of them. And then therefore it shows a bar control saying this. So you could literally upload 100 at one time. Now what I didn't really go into is that once this occurred, it calls a basic XBasic function. So it takes care of taking the file off the client, moving it to the designated place either on S3 or on the Alpha Anywhere app server, and then we have an XBasic. Actually, wait, S3. Yeah, we can't process the file. It just throws them up on there. But if we use Alpha Anywhere, we have this XBasic function, and now after that goes up, did I grab that? Yeah. There is a function that allows me to look at each file that's uploaded and do something with it. So I can either rename it, or I could extract the data from it and insert it into a database. Any number of things there. So the advantage of going to the Alpha Anywhere server is that I can say, okay, well, if these files are up, they're kind of in an area, I can then go through and address those. And then if you have, for instance, if you're using MS on S3, you'll still know what files are uploaded, but they're just sitting up on the S3 instance there. So very long-winded, but a great subject because it's often used. Go ahead and use the file upload Amazon S3 storage or Alpha Anywhere server action JavaScript. In here, you decide where you want to go to. You then select the parameters of what you want to, including showing an indicator here. and then you can either have an XBasic function or those pieces there. And that allows you to do it. The cool thing is it just works. I mean, it's very, I found that that was actually, when they released that feature there, it became very stable, and it just works well. And people have a very good experience in terms of uploading files, and they love the status update, because often other systems you'll click upload, they'll like have these kludgy kind of where you'll select a bunch of files and then they'll just sit on the screen and the thing will go in a circle for a while and you don't really know what's going on. With this, you get this really powerful feedback, so they can say, oh yeah, it selected all the right files, and oh, this is about how far away I am from being done, because everybody expects everything to be done under a second. With file uploads, that doesn't actually happen. So enjoy, have fun with it. You're going to really like how powerful and feature-rich that is, and it works. It's a really fun thing to work with.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The next question I've got for you has to do with jQuery. This person needs to implement a vertical slider control into Alpha Anywhere. They know that jQuery has a third-party version, but their question is, how do you implement jQuery in Alpha Anywhere?
Ah, very good. Okay, well, first and foremost, and that kind of goes to the following. And this actually, I did a presentation on Bootstrap at the DevCon that kind of talked about it. First and foremost is Alpha uses jQuery. And so what's important for you to understand is that jQuery is already built into Alpha. And so when you deploy anything with Alpha with a UX component or grid or anything like that, we've already done there. So the important thing about that, and the reason I mention that, is that if you go to that web page that the UX component is built in, so let me go ahead and open up an A5W page. And I'll go ahead and open up this one right here. So, okay, so here is a plain vanilla Bootstrap page. So you'll notice in here I'm putting a link into the Bootstrap here, and it also, and I don't think I have jQuery in here, I would also have the link of the jQuery, and then you have your Bootstrap kind of markup, etc. from there. But the problem is that if I go ahead and open up a, let's see this, nope, that's not it. Let's find one that has a UX in it. I'm trying to find, nope, sorry. Okay, here is an Alpha page. Now remember, Alpha components can only run in pages. Well, you'll notice when I look through here that you have kind of your regular header stuff. Then you had a set of this code, and this was automatically inserted because I just did the insert component, select the component, and it gives me this code. So I don't actually have to write that. And it also puts in its style sheet information. Then I have also another set of code that Alpha gives me to put it on the page. But you'll notice something in here. I don't have a reference to jQuery anywhere on here. And the reason why is that this, when this runs, it will automatically put the reference into the jQuery that Alpha supplies to the client. So we actually send the jQuery library down, and then we say it. So very important, and I like to say this because if you do this, it will break and things won't work right, is that if you go in here and you put in a link for jQuery, blah, 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 then your UX component will stop working. But the benefit is that is now you know jQuery is on there. So now when I go into my, I'm going to just go ahead and take this as an example. I'm going to go in here to my containers, and I'm going to put in a freeform layout here. Okay. Now the freeform control is actually, a container is very powerful because all it is it, when you put it on the screen, any HTML that I put in here will just render on the page. So let's go ahead and show you how that works. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go H1, hello class, H1. Okay. So this is just plain vanilla. So now when I run this working preview, Alpha takes what's in that container and just throws it out there. So often you'll see, and if I can go back to my HTML editor, and let me go here, you know, you'll see here is that you just put in these kind of text here. I could just take this and put it right here and copy this into that, where is it? Here it is. into here, so I can just put in here any kind of HTML there. Now, the issue you're going to have with like vertical sliders and things like that is that it's going to be a combination of some plain old HTML, but then also it's going to have some jQuery code. And that's where the JavaScript functions come in. What you can do is in the JavaScript function, and there's two ways to do this. One is you can put the jQuery kind of functions here, but the other opportunity too is that you can go to Properties, go to the header area, head section tags, go in here, and you can paste right here your jQuery script that they're going to give you. So what will happen is with a lot of that kind of stuff, they give you a set of HTML and then a set of script and a set of CSS. So I take the HTML and I stick it into a freeform container like I showed you a minute ago. I take the script, I put it into this head section here. Note, I make sure that in the script I don't have any references to jQuery because I know Alpha is going to do that for me. And then the last thing you'll probably need to do is you want to go to the CSS area, and let's go right here. You can do it one of two ways. You could actually just you could put that CSS in a CSS file and link it to this UX, which is probably the best way to do it. Or what you can do is you can go to local CSS definitions here and paste in that CSS because it's going to depend on that CSS for styling and layout. So first step is you're going to have HTML, CSS, and jQuery. Step one is take your HTML and put it into a freeform container on the screen, and therefore then it's going to tab that HTML there. Go to your properties here, add your CSS into a linked file and link it here, or put it in a local CSS definitions. Tend to like to use link files because if you redo this on another UX component, you don't have to paste you just have to link it to that CSS, so if you have to change it at any time there. And last but not least is go to your header section and put in here that jQuery script, and you are good to go. That's how I've done it before, and that gives you the best of both worlds of Alpha and the best worlds of, kind of a jQuery dynamic interface. Now, the last thing is, well, how do I interact between that stuff in jQuery and Alpha? It's like I've got this little box full of stuff. And I can't go into much detail, but the idea behind it is that when you have the stuff in jQuery, most often they're going to have like a reference where you can call either another page on it, or more importantly, you can call JavaScript. So let's see, let's go ahead and do this. HTML, a tag, JavaScript. Okay, let me see if they're. So a lot of times they'll say when you click on this button, it's not going to actually take you to a location, but it's going to run a piece of JavaScript. So let me just touch on that really quick. So here's an example. So I'm going to take this right here. Let me go back into here. Is that a good one here? There it is. This is a better one right here. So I'm going to go in here, and let's say for whatever reason they had there. So you'll notice in here, there's this is the text going to show up in this. And when the person clicks on that text, it's actually going to run a JavaScript called show more menu. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this show more menu in here. So the idea is that, and this will be more complex for your situation. So now I go into JavaScript function, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that here, and I'm going to say function show more menu. Alert. Let's see if this actually works. And so now we have show more menu alert. I don't think this goes here. Okay. And let's see what happens. I don't know if this will work or not, but we got to work to watch all. So here's my text, and when I go here, you'll notice that it called that JavaScript function. A miracle. Demo worked first time. There's something in the air. But what's cool about that is now, check this out. Let me do this. Watch this. I'm going to go to menu, JavaScript Actions Editor, and I'm going to add a new action. And I'm going to call it Hello World. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Action JavaScript Builder to, let's say, do a message box. So I'm going to just do this. Okay, so I'm using Action JavaScript to do anything like showing maps and everything else there. And I click Save. And then I want to do is that now that I've created that action, I can actually click here to see the JavaScript code to invoke that action. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. So this is, then I'm going to close it. Okay, so now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go back to my, and so instead of there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it. So now this is the best of both worlds. When the person clicks on that, it's going to actually run a Action JavaScript, which could be very sophisticated, and we'll see if that works. So let's go ahead and click this. You'll see that it brings the HTML. Now it looks the same from what I did before, but instead of writing actual JavaScript, I used Action JavaScript to create a behavior, and then all I did is in here I called that behavior, i.e. I ran that action, and that's where you can kind of integrate both the stuff you bring in, but then unlock all the very powerful features of Alpha to be able to do pretty incredible stuff. And it's 1 o'clock on the dot.
It is indeed, and we have a few questions that we did not get to, including one that I really wanted to, and it had to do with timer events and getting SQL Server to fire and do something every minute, but we can get to that next week.
Yes.
If that is your question and you need to answer quicker, just send an email to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. And we have a few others as well.
I would really, can I make a suggestion we change that guides?
Yeah.
I think we should go to like 2 annoying guys at alphasoftware.com. It'll be much easier for people to remember.
It would be easier, much. I agree with you, man. Well, thank you very much, Dean, for presenting. Thank you, everyone who attended and asked questions. Again, you can send your email to, at least for the time being, guides@alphasoftware.com, and we will get back to you. So I hope to see you at a future webinar. Take care, and goodbye.